Right, today we shall be considering adoption. Like I told you, that adoption is simply the process whereby a person assumes parenting responsibility of a child that is not his or hers biologically, but with the legal approval from the child's birth parent. In this case, the birth parent of a child gives an adoptive parent every right concerning that child, gives an adoptive parent the right of ownership of the said child. That means I have the right to hand over my child to another person legally. That means there must be a legal agreement with documents signed, approval documents from the right quarters signed and documented, that I no longer want this child to be my child, that I want to hand over the ownership of this child to another person. Then the court will grant it. And once it is granted and signed, that child will no longer be mine, no matter what I do in this life again, because I have handed over the ownership of that child to another parent, of course, legally. So that is simply what an adoption is. Adoption is not baby racketeering. Adoption should not be mistaken for fostering. There's a very big gap between fostering a child and adopting a child. So when you are fostering a child, it is on temporary basis. Like, I give you this child to take care of this child for me for a while. Adoption has to be done by a government agency. So it could be child welfare in the Ministry of Women Affairs, depending on how each ministry is structured in different states. So in Ebonyi State, we have the child welfare in the Ministry of Women Affairs. So the Women Affairs Ministry is in charge of everything related to child welfare. So that is what adoption is. Nobody should sell a child to you. And the beautiful thing about adoption is that adoption is done with little or no money. The only money you can pay in the case of adoption, a legal adoption, is probably to for documents and some things, but nobody charges you because you want to adopt a child. So what we have in our environment is baby selling or baby racketeering. People sell children. Some people in the motherless babies home, they sell children, like they collect money and they hand over a child to an adoptive parent. It is so wrong. If you are caught, you are going to go in for it. So each time you think of adoption, just always remember that it is legally backed. If what you have is not legally backed, you just bought a child, and it is an offense. Time you think I feel of breaking up this marriage, let us go for adoption. Please, the first thing you ought to do is to go and find out the ministry in charge of child welfare. When that is done, make your request. If you are in a Ebonyi State, you should know that the ministry in charge of child welfare is the Ministry of Women Affairs. When that is done, then you can make your request known to them. After making your request known to them, then you have to apply through them to the court. The court gives them the power to investigate you as an adoptive parent, to find out a lot of things about you, where you reside, your home address, that is your hometown, what you do for a living, to know if you are financially capable to take care of a child, to know if you are healthy enough to take care of a child. The court will have to find out your relations, if they are in support of the adoption. Okay, so these are the processes, and after the investigation, the agency gives feedback to the court in form of recommendation to either approve, suggesting to them to either approve or disapprove your request or your application. After that, if the court finds you worthy enough, then you go ahead to do the proper documentation. And after the documentation, that is where it will be sealed and signed. And of course, the child will be handed over to you after when they are ready to do that. Don't forget that once you adopt a child, you have assumed every responsibility in the life of that child. The child has the same rights as your birth children. And listen, if you adopt a child, probably a male child, and that child is the first child in the family, and eventually heaven blesses you with another son, don't forget that the child you adopted remains the legal first child, the heir to the throne of that family. So your adopted child has equal rights with your birth children. In fact, your adopted child is a heir to the things you have, just like your biological child. So these are processes, and that is why you don't pay anything. I hear people buy children. Sometimes they buy a male child 500,000, a female child 300 or 400,000, as the case may be. Sometimes people buy above, like ₦1 million or below ₦1 million. Thousands of naira are given in exchange for a child. In the legal and the real meaning of adoption, you don't buy. You just have to be patient with the process, because it's not a jump start stuff. It's not a walk in the park. You have to be patient enough. You have to be very patient with the agency and the courts, so that everything that needs to be done, every processes need to be completed. So it takes time. It requires your patience. But I think it is far better for that child and for you as an adoptive parent to be patient with the court and the agency and get things done the right way than going ahead to buy a child. If you legally get a child and that child dies and the law catches up on you, you are going in. Which would you prefer, to adopt legally or to buy a baby? The next video, I will tell you why you should do adoption the right way. If you've illegally acquired a child, you still have the right to go through the right process to legally have a document backing that child as your own. Thank you, and God bless.